Hello, one and all, and welcome to the podcast we call the Fantastival with myself, Steve Nussbaum. In the podcast, I invite my guests to come on and talk to me all about their musical tastes, their memories, their experiences, and they get to collate their fantasy festivals, which I have christened Fantastivals. We are now on episode number 180. Welcome back. I hope this episode finds everyone well, and I hope everyone's been enjoying the sunshine as we move into July. Unbelievably, June is almost gone. July and the summer are almost here, and I hope everyone is well. Before we start this one, just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's listened to episode 179 with the very talented Aaron Lee Tasjan, a great musician, awesome guest. He told some wonderful stories, so please go and give that a listen if you've not done so already. And thanks to Aaron for coming on. So like I said, this is 180 of the Fantastival Podcast, and this week I'm delighted to be joined by someone who has scored in the Champions League, fronted his own band. A very interesting man, someone I've admired for a very long time and wanted to get on the podcast. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr Paul McGregor.
Hey Steve, how you doing?
All good, Paul. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast to talk music, football, your fantasy festival and more. I always like to start by asking my guests how they are from a mental health perspective. I know you've been out coaching earlier. I think it's important that we talk about our mental health. So to start off, Paul, just generally, how are you, mate?
I'm great. I'm really good. Yeah, I'm kind of a bit of a funny one with kind of mental health. I don't know whether football stood me in such good stead, or whether there's a cliff coming at some point. But I tend to be always really well balanced, even when things are tough and even when things are hard. I'm pretty good at kind of going, okay, well, everybody has crap, and I'm always quite good at sort of being objective about things and stepping away and having a look and seeing the bigger picture. So I'm always smiling, dude. I'm always like, my philosophy is you're here once, like it's there to be lived. Like to just be here alone is winning the human lottery, isn't it? It's like life's just a constant total joy. I'm one of those annoying people that would just desperate to live until they're 1,000 and onwards. I can't wait to see what's coming, good or bad.
Hopefully it's all good. I say hopefully. There's a lot going on at the moment.
There's a lot going on.
Just a tad. Yeah. So, Paul,
we'll be all right.
I always like taking my guests back to their youth as a starting point. So what were your earliest musical memories? What do you remember about being young and music and growing up?
I remember vinyls. In the house. My mum was always singing. My earliest memories, I guess, are my mum singing whilst cooking Sunday dinners with the thickest Scouse accent, singing John Denver and Patsy Cline, Johnny Mathis, these sorts of things. Actually, I can go back even earlier. I can remember I used to climb into my mum and dad's bed. I must have been like 3-4 years of age, and being scared to death, scared out of my wits when the alarm would come on. And it was around the sort of time Kate Bush and Ultravox, so like Vienna would come on, and it would scare the life out of me. I can remember being scared stiff just by the sound of the record, but finding it thrilling at the same time, but having the comfort of my parents either side. Kate Bush as well, Wuthering Heights used to scare the bejesus out of me. Sparks, This Town, just those creepy 70s big. So I actually remember being really scared. So that's probably my earliest memory. But yeah, influences growing up that seemed to sort of rattle through my life. In retrospect, my mum and dad had a Trogs album, a Beatles album, the Jungle Book album of the film, John Denver, Queen live. I think they had about 10 records, and I just walloped them. So I have a deep love of country music. The Trogs sort of end up becoming the Stooges and Spaceman 3 and nasty riff-based stuff. Patsy Cline, those big songs, like so my love of like really big pop possibly comes from that, and the Beatles. And from the Beatles, you get everything, don't you, really?
Yeah, you certainly do. So I guess, at what age did you start finding kind of your own musical taste? What age were you then, and how did you kind of get into your own scene?
Going into comp, really. So it wasn't that weird back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, to sort of be into bands like U2 or Simple Minds early doors, it was kind of U2 and In Excess and slightly alt bands, but like back then it was pretty mainstream, I found. But it really sort of exploded when I got into comp school and comprehensive, obviously. And I had mates with really cool older brothers, and they were all into like Simple Minds and the Velvet Underground. And so, yeah, one of the older brothers was a proper sort of twee Glasgow anorak sort of kid into the Mary Chain and the Velvets and the Pooh Sticks and the Pastels and the Stupids and all these really cool bands. He had a proper Brian Jones bowl haircut. He used to wear winkle pickers to school. He was really cool. His name was Matt Beck.
That's a cool name, isn't it? That's a cool name. Someone called Matt Beck is going to be cool.
Well, his brother was Austin Beck, and he was actually in my first band. And I had another mate called Andy Russell and his brother Ian Russell. A really informative moment going around their house. And where I live was kind of like the council estate area, and there's a school in the middle called Bramcote Hills, and then you've got Bramcote, and that was a posh area. So they all had nice houses. So I can remember going round, records everywhere, and we weren't allowed in Ian's room, the older brother. But I can just remember hearing New Gold Dreams sort of echoing from his bedroom as me turning to Andy and said, "What is that?" Just sounded magical. And that mixed in with like the smells and the sight of older brother and teenagedom, maturity and like all. And he used to have this fringe, right, like short hair, like almost like Bowie's in Low, like big long fringe down here, like always just flicking it back like that. It's just like, you are just the coolest. And so yeah, we got massively into Simple Minds, and obviously around the time you had all the John Hughes movies, Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller and all that kind of stuff. So that whole Simple Minds thing was a big deal. I sort of fell away from U2 a little bit and In Excess, and it all started to become a little bit cooler. Like MC5 were around, and this is from, so the other side was Matt Beck, and like I say, he was all Stooges and Velvets and MC5, so that really cool Detroit stuff. And that bled into bands of that time being, you know, like your Spacemen 3s and Loop and all these sort of bands that were sort of copying that period. And so, yeah, it was a baptism of fire on the coolest stuff you can imagine from a very young age. So I think, and bearing in mind, I was on fire at football as well. I was a good footballer. So this sort of split personality was emerging, whereas I was a jock, but I was into the weirdest crap. So bowl haircuts, winkle pickers, hanging out with all the cool kids, but also destroying anybody that wants to take the mick out of me on a football field. So being accepted by everybody, really, which I guess this is where my positivity comes from.
And what were your first records in, Paul? Can you remember buying your first records and what they were?
Yeah, my first record I bought with my own pocket money was Adamant Stand and Deliver. Yeah, I was just obsessed with Adamant just as a really young kid. I remember making my mum draw the front cover. I was just obsessed with it. I used to stand it up, and I recently, actually, funnily enough, went back and listened to that record because I can remember even being aware at the time that it was pop and novelty to some degree. And I've listened to it recently, and it doesn't stand up very well, that album. But funnily enough, the Friend or Foe album after it, which is just Adamant, is great. And obviously all the Dirk Wears White Socks and all the stuff previous to Prince Charming is incredible. Like, if you look at some of the early Adam and the Ants footage with the two drummers, it's thrilling. It's so cool. And he looks amazing. Like Jim Morrison's crossed with Ian Astbury, turned up to 12. Just brilliant. Brilliant band.
So you mentioned earlier you were smashing it at football, and I think it's fair to say you did, because you end up at Forest, and like I said earlier, you score. I guess you have a Roy of the Rovers moment, right? Almost coming out of nowhere to anyone who doesn't support Forest, and this young indie-looking kid crops up in 95, 96 and scores the winning goal in a Champions League game, and in the following Saturday, if I'm right, scores against United. It comes out of nowhere, this like cool-looking kid. So I guess for you at that time, it must have been an absolutely whirlwind moment, or maybe not.
No, it absolutely was. Oh, it was frightening. It was just unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, around that time, like I say, I used to get told off for having, you know, when Brian Clough's your manager, your first manager out of school, you're getting told, "Get your bloody haircut, son," every 2 minutes. Like when you're trying to grow a Brett Anderson fringe or trying to have a Damon Albarn boppy fringe. Like, it's just not happening. So I ended up just having short hair whilst Brian Clough was there, and Frank Clark was a bit more lenient. So yeah, I always looked a kind of certain way, and the lads always used to sort of take the piss. I always say I was genuinely and ahhed about going into training with eyeliner when the Manics were first around. So I had skinny white jeans and I had the Dunlop Green Flash, but I was also like into the whole casual thing as well, the really early CP Company and Stone Island stuff. So I remember having this enormous oversized blue Stony jacket and then these skinny white Mannix jeans and Dunlop Green Flash, and then being like that in the mirror. No, come on. And I had a real moment of it because we were going up to a nightclub in Leeds, me and my mates from school, completely underage, and we were going up. I forget the name. It was Under the Arches somewhere, but it was a mod club. It was like one room was like really psychedelic 60s stuff. So yeah, and like we were going up there, so we were all getting suited up, like proper quadrophenia, putting eyeliner on. I'm at Forest, by the way, so we're going up and like we're proper like listening to all this really cool, like rare 60s mod stuff. Funnily enough, I saw Cast play their first ever show there.
Oh, wow.
The drummer was like Keith Moon. Yeah. So yeah, we used to go up there all the time. So eyeliner wasn't a massive stretch for me, but yeah, I had to pull myself back from it. But yeah, so I always looked a particular way. But the lads, once you start breaking the first team, and I've heard Stuart Pearce say this a few times, the reason why I was accepted, because I was a strong character. Like I didn't give a shit. I knew I was right. I knew like that I was on it. I was into the best music. I was into the best clothes, and you lot are plebs. Piercy liked post-punk stuff.
He likes punk, doesn't he?
But it was old man music. Obviously, I then got into that, and it's wicked. But to me, it was old man music, and nothing was current. And then me and Scott Gemmell bonded over a lot of indie stuff, in particular the Verve and really early Verve and early Oasis.
What about Mark Crossley? Because I've seen Mark Crossley, he seems to be on socials with like people like Shed 7. He seems to have quite a good grasp of the new music scene as well.
Yeah, I got him into all that. Don't listen to Norm having a good grasp on anything. He never had a good grasp on a cross.
Nicely done. Nicely
good
done.
On that. So yeah, I mean, the first time we all went to see Shed 7, like I'd got in touch with Rick, and we all went down to London to watch them perform, and we just all hung out. And I don't know if you've ever had any of the lads on your show.
I had Rick on last year. Lovely guy. I had him on the week before they got their second #1 album, and it was all about kind of that. So great time to have him on. Yeah, Rick, lovely lad. Absolutely lovely lad.
Isn't he just the coolest dude? He's the loveliest fella. And me and Rick just became really tight mates from then on. We've been really close friends for a long time, which has been wonderful. So yeah, we're going to see them wherever we can. But yeah, all the boys came down to that as well, and so they got to know them and stuff. But yeah, that was all led by me and Scott, really. And obviously I was at the forefront of that I had the haircut. I was in a band. So my school band, we were called Merc, and we're in a band, and we were starting to play around Nottingham, and the first team was starting to come to them. And because I was coming on for the first team, I was starting to make a bit of a name for myself in and around the first team. The national press sort of picked up on it, like young indie. So I was in the papers quite a lot, and it was starting to kind of not so much annoy Frank Clark, but I think he's apologised to me in retrospect, because he thought I had my head turned, and I hadn't. Like all the lads were off down Ritz's or the Black Orchid getting walloped and birding it and that, and I was in a rehearsal room with my mates, like not even drinking. Yeah, just making music.
And Merc, it's quite a famous story for Merc. Well, when I was reading up on Merc, there's quite a story about Alan McGee maybe being at the show and he didn't, and it kind of didn't go to maybe where it could have or should have.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story. I have no idea about that story. Our manager at the time was a guy called Andy Copping, who now runs Download. And he used to book all the bands at Rock City. So I cheekily just asked him to start getting me into gigs, and I'd sort him out football tickets for the game. And he became the band's manager. I think he used to start a load of stuff like that on a Svengali sort of Malcolm McLaren, Alan McGee sort of angle. I know McGee was aware of us because there was a podcast about 2 years ago, which was hilarious. And I was sat on a Sunday morning, just flicking through in bed, as you do, flicking through Twitter. And McGee was on a podcast with James from Las Vegas. And they were talking about football because James was I think either semi-pro or he'd signed, I think he had a year pro at a Scottish club. And Alan McGee was like, I remember this young lad from the 90s. And I'm not just saying this, you can look it up. He went, oh, he was dead good looking. And he came up to me and he was into all these really cool bands. And he was in a band. And I meant to go and see him because he would have been the coolest thing. And I never got around to go and see him, but he was great. And my mate knows him. So I was like, that's me. I was nudging my missus going, he's on about me. Alan McGee thinks I'm good looking. So my mate, Johnny Owen, knows him really well. So I text Johnny and we had a couple of emails back and forth, me and McGee, so it was nice.
That's funny. Obviously, the football kind of went to where the football goes, and you had an injury and ended up going through Plymouth and Northampton. Merc don't work out, but then you joined another band called Ulterior, which is currently still going, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, you've scooched through about 10 years there. Yeah, that wasn't really the case. I had an injury at the end of Frank Clark's sort of tenure as boss. He left Forest about 3 days after I'd ruptured my lateral ligaments. Bearing in mind, I was going to start the season and I was, ready to be given a run of like 10 games, 15 games to get a real foot in the door. They were moving Steve Stone, who was the England right winger at the time, into the centre of the park. Then I was going to be the new right winger and, ruptured my lateral ligaments. I was 6 months out to the day. But new manager had come in, Dave Bassett. He'd said, and to be fair, I respect it, he'd said, look, you're not my type of player. The shit thing was about that, he moved me down into a reserve team dressing room, which was hell because you get caned. I got absolutely destroyed. I'm trying to come back from injury. And that was hard work. It's like a demotion. And football dressing rooms are brutal. So, yeah, it wasn't pleasant. But then I did get myself back and I got back in his plans and I worked hard and he gave me a chance and he took me in the squad. We went down to Portsmouth, but I got done for inciting a riot as a substitute. What? And that was the end of my Forest career.
Well, when you say inciting a riot, what did you do?
I was warming up, and I don't know if you've ever been to Fratton Park, but you're about that far from the fans, and they're special, the Portsmouth fans. They are naughty boys, and that would just give me so much stick. So I just, little middle finger scratch to the head, and that was that. 100 lads invaded the pitch, chased me into the tunnel. It was about 30 seconds to go till half-time. The ref just blew the whistle. The police stormed the dressing room. Dave Bassett locked me in a toilet, stood out the front with Mike, the goalkeeping coach, and the police were like, give us McGregor, give us him. He's like inciting a riot, this, that, and like Dave Bassett was like, you're not having him. You're not having him. Like, you're not having him. So I had to hide, and I got snuck out onto the bus at the end with Portsmouth fans throwing stuff at us and everything. Wow. And then so Dave Bassett got me into the manager's room the next day, and he was like, fair enough to him. And I've got no ill will against Dave Bassett. He was just like, Macca, I think that's it, mate. I was like, yeah, fair enough. But the report on that's hilarious. I've still got it. I posted it on social media, actually.
Oh, that's funny.
And then Ron Atkinson came in, and he was just a gobshite, and I'm delighted he got found out to be the fat racist prick that he is, because he was a horror. He was horrible to me. And I went out on loan, went to Preston under David Moyes, who was brilliant with me. And then Plymouth just said, listen, it's a beautiful place here. You'll be the first name on the team sheet. Come and score us goals, have fun. And I did. I did exactly that. And I loved it. Player of the year, top goal scorer, fans player, nickname of McGod.
Not bad.
Which is all right.
That's all right, yeah.
Go. And yeah, I loved it. But then got offered twice the money to come and play for Northampton. It was a shame, really, because Plymouth then went up 2 years on the bounce under Paul Sturrock. And I'd left to go to Northampton. And by that time at Northampton, good God, we'd had 6-7 managers. We weren't getting paid. It was an absolute, I despise it. And when, funnily enough, the only time really, when you spoke about mental health at the beginning of the podcast, the only time really I think I wobbled. I remember being sat on the end of the bed, and my wife was like, "Are you all right?" And this is to go to training for Northampton. I had tears streaming down my eyes, but I had no idea. And they were just trying to bully me out of the club because I was on good money, and they were trying to. It was horrible. So I was getting bullied at work for 6 months essentially. So, but me being me, I just fought back, and I wasn't pleasant to them, and I was disruptive. But that wasn't me. If you knew me at Forest, you knew me at Plymouth. A disruptive player, I was not. I was good in the dressing room. I was fun in the dressing room. Pulled people together, you know. And then I just thought, fuck you. You ain't going to get one over on me. Born in Bootle, grew up in Nottingham. Like, I'm just, it's not happening. It's not happening, lads. So yeah, I made their life a hell. And in the end, they paid me up and got rid of me. And then I got offered a contract, Grimsby, got offered a contract with Hull, and I just thought, I'm a band, Ulterior at the time. We were playing shows in London. We were really starting to and we were playing proper shows as well. So we were playing shows at sort of 1 a.m. on a skate ramp in an underground facility, car park or something, in front of 300 mad teenagers. And we were playing like Jesus and Mary Chain, Psycho Candy era, feedback, single note riffs off the E string, Spaceman 3 style, with hard as nail techno, with Manic Street Preachers, Holy Bible era sloganeering, all wrapped up in what looked like Suicide or early Ministry or something. We were thrilling. All head to toe in Raf Simons, because that's when you could afford it, like just looking brilliant. And so I sat my dad down in the working men's club in Nottingham. And I just said, Dad, I'm retiring from football. It's 28, and I said I'm going to go and do the band. And the week I retired, our name was on the front cover of the NME as one of the great dark hopes of New Dark London, I think they called it, with the Horrors and these New Puritans and bands like that. And so life switched. I didn't look at a football, didn't kick a football for 5 years, and we hit London as hard as any band's ever hit London, and we did it properly.
And how did that, I guess, play? I mean, the Horrors go on to... I remember when the Horrors' debut album came out, they win the Mercury Music Prize, if I remember rightly. I guess my question is, why did Ulterior not go on to, I guess, that level?
Because I like this quote as well. We were a funny bunch. So we're Northern for starters. So anyone pratted about, they got walloped. So all the bands back then were acting. There was one band called Selfish Cunt.
I know, yeah.
Martin is phenomenal. They are an unbelievable band. If you'd have caught Selfish Cunt back then, Jesus Christ, they were insanely good. Stooges, The Fall, like they were electric. We toured with them. I'll never forget. So Martin's gay, and he's really camp on stage. He's beautiful, but he's a hard boy. Like I think he's from that way, East Coast, like Skeggy or something daft like that. So he can go a bit, Martin. He's no one's fool. And we were playing this show, and I remember Martin's doing all this really camp, gorgeous, beautiful dancing at the front of the stage. And this Stony lad's just come up to the front, and he's like, ooh, like giving him all these kind of like hand gestures and stuff. Martin, who's a dancer, singing like this, didn't bat an eyelid, reached his leg out, wrapped his leg around this guy's neck, and pulled him into his groin. And Cat was carrying on singing and was thrusting into this guy's face. And this guy was like scrambling. All his mates are crying with laughter. And then Martin just let him go and pushed him away and was giving it like doing monkey signs to him. They were thrilling, mate. Honestly, that is such a good band. Everyone else, Horrors included, even though I like the Horrors, and Faris is a really good lad, a good footballer as well, actually. Yeah, it was all just young posh lads. So that's what that whole scene was. They could only afford to be there, and we were just, we were getting locked up, and we were like, we were naughty boys. Like, my mate's the guitarist from Ulterior. He ended up marrying Sam Valentine, whose dad was in the Animals. She had a band called Ipso Facto, who were really good actually. But they were getting told, all the bands that were getting signed around us, to keep away from us, just because our house on Anton Street was becoming like the Stooges' fun house. It was a bit of a naughty place. So bands were getting warned off us, venues were getting warned off us. Yeah. Looking back, when I listened to like Wild in Wildlife, our first album, I find it a hard listen now.
Oh, really?
Because it's a great album, but I'm right back there. And I was sleeping under my van. I was sleeping under vans. I was sleeping in bushes, phone booths. Yeah, it was because I was living up here with my wife, who was my girlfriend back then, and going down to London for like a week, and like we were playing 3 shows and rehearsing, and we were at it. But like, yeah, it was hard. Like, it was hardcore. A lot of naughty stuff, but loads of fun, obviously. Why we didn't do it? Like, we'd play with super cool bands like Faust, or like all these great bands, and they'd love us, and we'd play with Atari Teenage Riot and all these really cool bands. And only once did we suit somebody we supported, and that was the Sisters of Mercy. Previous to that, audiences didn't know what to get. And there was a quote about us after the Faust gig, the only positive we got from that show, and it was, these guys will never do anything because they're too noisy for the pop crowd and they're too pretty for the noise crowd. And that was it. We couldn't get taken seriously because we looked wicked. And we were a fucking racket. we played at the audience, not for them, not with them. We played at them, which is why the Horrors loved us, which is why the Horrors took us everywhere, because they would... And Faris played with us quite a bit as well. He'd come on stage and just set his pedals up and just go crazy, because we were vicious. We were like... We went for it.
And you're still going though, right? Ulterior is still going. We were speaking about them earlier before we started recording.
Yeah, so I've written a new album. My brother lives in LA. Our guitarist is in London. He's married, got a kid, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we wouldn't do anything as crude as Split Up. It was just whenever the time was right. The reason why we sort of stopped doing anything, because it was the second time we were touring Japan, and it was kind of... We got to a point, which, as you'll know, being able to tour Japan or South Africa and it wipes its own backside, you make 10 grand, but 10 grand spent on the tour. That's an incredible level to get to. And we got to that level. It was just, and then my daughter was born, and we were out in Japan for the second time. I was like, if I'm not coming home with 2 grand, I'm not going away. What am I doing? Like, jolly up time's gone. When I came back, I missed her. She was only like 3 weeks old. The 8 in me was unbearable. I was like, I'm not being that dad. I'm not being chasing my dreams in a band dad whilst I've got a little girl that depends on me there and a wife that needs me. It's not happening. So I went back and drove a lorry.
Fair play. But that, you said you've written a second album. I guess these days, technology... Third album. I guess these days, with technology, right, you don't all have to be in the same place. So I remember speaking to Electricity, and they were literally on 4 different continents recording an album. So I guess these days, you don't have to all be in the same... Literally, not even in the same continents, recording an album together. So it could happen.
No, and I wanted to write this... This album's been written for about 5 years. And my brother agrees on this, by the way, but I kind of don't want my brother to write the music to this, because he wrote everything for the past 2 Ulterior albums. I'm pulling in people like techno producers and hip-hop producers, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't inspired by the way Kanye West made Yeezus, where they sourced 12 of the best producers, on the hottest producers on the planet, and got them to make loops, rhythms, beats, and sent them all to Rick Rubin. And he just made those sounds. And Kanye came in and just, I think there's 10 songs on there, maybe 9. And I think he only wrote 4 sets of lyrics. And Rick Rubin just chopped, pasted, and created this thing. And I thought, wow, that's really great. So I'm currently demoing with a couple of lads that were in bands quite a few years ago that were big Ulterior fans, and got in touch with me and just said, listen, we'd like to work with you, like to do this, that, and the other. I was like, right, I'm actually writing Ulterior demos. I love your music. I've got a really, really strong idea about how I want it to sound, because the lyrics are so visceral. They're kind of all, I'd say 80% of it are not even my words, just trying to make sense of all this new language that you hear these days, particularly on social media, that sounds to me like solo Alan Vega, like hyper lyrical.
Yeah. And
I find it really fascinating. So I've just clashed all this stuff together, and it's balmy. It's utterly balmy, and it feels like a mirror, and it's almost rapped. It feels, it's not a rap album. It's really not a rap album, but it's more, there's less singing on it, less melody, which is why I thought my brother was wasn't the right person to sort of pick up a guitar and make songs with. I want it pieced together by beat makers, and then we'll add guitars and add the ulterior thrill to it. But yeah, I'm so excited about it. Just getting the time to get in a demo, it's been a pain in the arse, but I'll get there.
Look forward.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, it sounds intriguing. Obviously, look forward to hearing that. It sounds like there's a lot of different influences going on, which probably leads on to a good lead-on question in terms of, Paul, what you're listening to at the moment. So I'm listening to, my daughters are into Benson Boone. That's been on a lot in the house. I'm still in my Replacements era from back in the day that I'm reading them, and I'm still loving all their stuff and going back into the archives of Paul Westerberg and the Replacements. What are you listening to at the moment, Paul? What's on your streaming, or what's on your hi-fi? Or
love the Replacements. My brother's out in LA, and he's actually calling me now, so let me just get rid of him. So he's the Replacements wasn't really, they weren't really on my radar until my brother went out to LA, and he's got into quite a few bands from out there, so really got into those guys. That's cool. What am I listening to at the minute? Really boringly and really predictably, I can't not love Fontaine's DC. I just love them. What else am I listening to? What's grabbed me recently? But listen to The Fall a lot. Towns Van Zandt.
I mean, Paul, you obviously kind of famously christened the Britpop footballer. I guess it's easy to make that distinguish between your look and Britpop. But you're actually a fan of Britpop because you're not actually mentioned like too much about Britpop in terms of what you listened to at the time. And obviously 95, 96, you've got Oasis obviously coming through. You've mentioned The Verve, but were you a fan of Britpop or not so much?
Yeah, I was, and I am, but it's an ironic name because it's what I got pigeonholed as. So I used to get called the Britpop footballer in the national press and stuff. Like if the Sun ran a piece in Bizarre, like the Britpop footballer, Paul McGregor.
Yeah.
And I used to hate that. Now, I've got a new band called The Upper Body, and the reason why that came about and the whole Britpop footballer moniker was that during COVID, we used to walk to my mum and dad's, which is about a 45-minute walk to Chilwell, and they used to put a crate of beers on the middle step because they've got some steps leading down to their house, council house. So the crate of beers there, we'd sit at the top of the garden with my daughter and my wife, and they'd be down the bottom in the sunshine, and we'd just socialise with a distance. And my mum came out one day and went, right, here's a bin bag full of all your old shirts and crap. It's in our loft. We're clearing the house out. Here you are. And she stuck it on the lawn. And when I opened it up, there was loads of old shirts, my old Plymouth shirts, old Northampton shirts, Preston shirts. More importantly, all the old training kits. So all the amazing Umbro drill tops and like with Premier League badges on and stuff. I was like, whoa, Batwing, you know what I mean? Like looking amazing. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then a character started to form, like a sort of thin white Duke version of looking back. Because I started during COVID, sort of, I think, maybe a comfort thing to start to go back to listening to kind of melody again, like Big Star and Graham Parsons, Beatles, Stones, and Oasis. I hadn't listened to Oasis for 10, 15 years. Very rarely, now or anything Britpop, really, apart from Suede. So I spoke to my mate who I've got a studio, because we own a studio here about 5 minutes from my house. Commercial standard studio in a grade 2 listed building. It's beautiful. 8 lads, pay £50 a month. It's just great. All our equipment's, all the Ulterior equipment's in there. 3 bands worth of equipment's in there. I've got everything in there. Pianos, drum kits. One of the lads is a builder. He's built out a live room and a mixing desk and all this kind of vocal booths. Great. And I just said, do you know what I want to do? I just want to go and make massive indie nonsense. And I want to put this character, the Britpop footballer, front and centre. And I want him to wear his Mouldies. I want him to stink of deep heat. And I'm going to grow my indie hair back. I'm going to wear all this drill top stuff. And I'm going to wear all my umbers. I'm going to wear shin pads. And I want the dressing room to have a physio's table in it. And I want to wear the nose straps like Robbie Fowler. And this character started to form. And so the band, The Upper Body, came about and was like, let's just write big indie, post-punk. Don't care if it's cool or whatever. Let's just write big, massive choruses and melon, have loads of fun with it, and go and play in front of 800 people, forest crowds, like at pre-match and fan parks and stuff, and just have a right twat of it. And that's what we've done. It's been a right crack. The last show we played, I had 600 Forest fans singing Muller Kintyre like this, and I had one of the GPS vests on, and I live screened all my stats as the backdrop. on my GPS vest, and like this sort of Brett Anderson large collar leather jacket, my old Adidas tracky training top, shin pads, deep heat. I wore Popas, but I tested the stage before because I took 3 sets of boots. And I tested these Popas were the best ones, best grip, and and a nose strap. Everyone just thought it was balmy, but it was great because the songs are great, the tunes are just brilliant, loads of fun. So I've lent into the Britpop footballer on socials, and it's a piss tape. I'm taking the piss. I'm taking my past, which you could see as sort of nostalgia and swimming in nostalgia, but I'm not. I'm taking it and making it art for the present, for now. I'm reclaiming my own past. And yeah, Ulterior couldn't get arrested in England outside of London, but everybody remembers Merc, and everybody wants this Britpop footballer. So do you know what? They've fucking got him.
Yeah, absolutely, as they should. So, Paul, this pod is all about you getting to collect your fantasy festival. But are you a big fan of the festivals? Have you been to many? Obviously, this weekend as this comes out.
I hate them.
You hate them?
Yeah, can't stand festivals.
How come?
Because they involve people. Enforced fun. I'm not good in crowds. Playing festivals is hit and miss. Like, we've played a couple of Japanese festivals that were really great fun. I enjoyed those. Some of the goth festivals we played across Europe were decent. They were all right. There's a lot of waiting around. So playing them's all right. Going to them, I've been to a couple. Not really enjoyed them. I genuinely think going to Glastonbury would be my idea of hell. That said, one of my highlights of my year is sitting on this chair here with my TV there, turned towards me, windows open, Glastonbury on for 3 days. Absolutely love it. It's amazing. But being in crowds, it's just not for me. It was all right back then. I think I fell out of love with it all. Excuse me. Just when Oasis would do it, I got to be here now. I'm just not interested in the piss chucking and the nonsense and like being in big crowds and idiots singing the songs, and like I grew out of it. I don't like. I haven't got it in me to kind of be chill about other people's lack of. I'm in public actually. Do you know what I'm not going to do? Is bounce into people or blow smoke in people's faces or scream the lyrics down your ear, or I can't relax. I don't like it.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that might be what the Oasis gigs are like, which is why I've kind of stayed away from them, I think.
I was chatting to my mates who are going, but they're all in the VIP bits, and I was just like, that's the only way I'd go. And I know that sounds like you sound like a wanker. I know I do. But I would only go to Oasis if I was VIP'd up. If I got given free tickets to go and see them, but just in the crowd, no chance I'd go. I got given free tickets to go and see the Stone Roses at Heaton Park. Bearing in mind, I went to the comeback show in Warrington.
Oh, you went to the one in that hall about.
Oh, mate, it was unbelievable.
I bet.
It was the atmosphere was. It really was taking a step back to the 90s. That's a cheap thing to say, but it really was before the band came on, and not how people looked, but the DJ. And because it was kind of early doors, it was 7 o'clock, the sun's shining, and it's got a glass dome. So people are dancing to like Josh Wink and stuff, and everyone's in the rooms dancing just like, and the sun shines, because it's like being in space or Pasha or something. Honestly, it was the vibe was beautiful. And the Roses came on and did their album A to B. I was just like, oh, it was so good, so good. But then we went to a few of the big ones, and it was horrible, pokey as you like get in there and like 15-year-old girls semi-naked getting carried out, sick all over them. I'm just like, oh God almighty, gangs of lads scrapping and stuff. Like what? Oh, lads, like the Stone Roses were never about this. And they've just all been waiting for Oasis, haven't they? Kasabian had them for a while. A few of them have gone to Fontaines, but it's gonna be filth. Not for me. Yeah,
I agree. All right, Paul, we're going to collect your fantasy festival. So you get to pick 5 acts.
I hate you for this, by the way. I hate you. I absolutely despise you for making me do this.
I love it. I love it when people tell me they hate me and that they've not been able to think straight about it. So you get the honour. So for any first time listeners, Paul gets to choose any 5 acts, alive or dead, to take his fantasy festival slots. He has an opening slot, a super second, midway madness, pre-headline and a headline act. And then at the end of his fantasy festival, he brings all his 5 acts out to play one song, which we are calling the encore. But Paul, before we're going to talk about the acts, we're going to play your fantasy festival and who we're going to miss out. Got to give your fantasy festival a name and a venue. So Paul, what are you going to call your fantasy festival?
Oh, I've not thought about that. Oh, this will be crap off the top of my head.
Should we maybe come back to... Should we maybe go through your bands and see if we get any inspiration?
Yes, let's do that.
What about a venue? Have you thought about a venue? You can go big, you can go small. We can go back to Warrington. We can go to the City Ground. We go to Home Park. We can go across the waters. Anywhere you want, Paul, to hold your fantasy festival, big or small, we will follow you. Where you want to hold it?
I'm going to have to come back to that as well. And let me just tell you why, because I've scaled it like this. But it starts off dingy and smacky like it's Berlin or something. And then it ends up in massive stadium. So we'll think about it as we go. Maybe, what about this? Maybe Berghain. Maybe Panorama Bar in Berlin.
Okay, brilliant.
Where you can, like, the first 2 or 3, you can be the judge of that, are in the Sex Dungeons in Berghain.
Okay.
And then the final 2 are in the main hangar. The main room.
Okay, we're doing it. All right, let's do that. We haven't had a fantasy festival in a sex dungeon, so I'm always open to new opportunities, mate. All right, let's go for that. So, Paul, you only get 5 acts. Any acts who you want to give an honourable mention to who you love but aren't going to join us for your fantasy festival?
A thousand of them. This is insane. I mean, when you said one of them's got to play an album start to finish, my favourite album of all time, and they're not my favourite band of all time, but this album, I love albums that they're generally wrapped in tragedy, like Skeleton Tree by Nick Cave. But the Manic Street Preachers' Holy Bible, I think, is high art. I think when you look at the footage of them, like I know every twat's wearing a balaclava now, but like James in the balaclava, all the coal round the eyes, Richie, about 8 stone wet through, all the camo gear, the backdrop, the berets, the faster video. It's still thrilling. If a band hasn't got the bollocks this day and age to do that, and kneecap are way off it, by the way. The Manics, the Manics hitting the Holy Bible still thrills me like a teenager to this day. I can't believe they're not on this list doing the Holy Bible. So that was the only reason they were on this list. But the other bands, they can't have the Manic Street Preachers ahead of these bands.
Right.
But, Manics, I'm going to carry on. The Fall, because I love The Fall. It's a good day spent just putting The Fall on shuffle on Spotify. That's pleasant. Not having the Smiths is mental. And this band was the first band I thought of. The Doors, to see the Doors in full pomp, the Whiskey with Jim Morrison would be quite something, I can imagine. And my favourite artist of all time, the black star on my arm, is Bowie. But I want Berlin period Bowie. So I'd want the Isola tour. And I think these gigs would be better than the Isola tour.
Okay.
And there's another. The list is crazy. All the great big 80s bands that I love, Sisters, Cure, Smiths haven't made it. Stone Roses haven't made it. None of the 90s have made it. Oasis, etc. None of those lot have made it. So when I look at the list, I've seen one of them, and I've seen the lead singer of one of them. So it's all stuff I would have loved to have seen, and there's specific eras as well.
All right, I'm intrigued. Some amazing bands aren't coming with us, are going to miss out. All right, so let's take it in to Fantasy Festival. We're in the Sex Dungeons in Bernheim, 2:00. Time for your opening act to come out, Mr McGregor. So who is going to open your Fantasy Festival?
The Velvet Underground with Nico. Yeah, so the smackiest, nastiest version of them doing Heroin and I'll Be Your Mirror and Venus in Furs. Can you imagine seeing that with John Cale's viola, that sound? when you put Venus in Furs on, it still sounds like the future. It still sounds like no band ever to this day. And they was such an informative band for me. But I mean, how many bands came out of that wraparound shades, leather, head to toe leather, 60s beat poet, heroin, chic, not even heroin, chic, just fucking heroin. Edgy, nasty, spiteful, vicious. And yeah, I just think that would have been the footage I see of them. I just think, oh gosh, that is where every band I've loved has come from that. And the Velvets are my real go-to, even more so than the Beatles. The Velvets are, when I'm going, what do I want to listen to today? If I can't think of anything, I just go, right, it's Velvets. And they are always the rock on which I crash.
Great choice. All right, Velvet Underground, Nico, your opening act. It's the 7th time they've been picked in the Fantastival podcast. So Steve Firth from Embrace has picked them before. Paul Hemmings from The Lars has picked them. Nigel Clark from Dodgy has picked them as well. So you're in good company there, Paul, with the Velvet Underground. They're going to play for an hour. They're going to play from 2 till 3. We'll take a half-hour break. That takes us to 3:30. And it'll be time for your super second act, Paul. So who are you going to have follow the Velvet Underground?
This is a controversial one, I think, but a really obvious one. And I'm going to stay. We're still down in the Sex Dungeons. We've not come upstairs into the main room yet at Berghain. And it's not quite, they're not quite Hamburg era, but they're back in the cavern and they've got their first 4 or 5 singles in their locker, but it's head to toe leather Beatles, early Beatles before they really break. So you can hear Love Me Do, you can hear all this stuff, but you've got 4 lads who'll knock you the fuck out. Hard Liverpool boys coming off the back of 2 years, head to toe in leather, playing 2-3 shows a day in Hamburg, speeding off their minds. Naughty boys coming back with all those incredible songs, that tight, that hair, just before the suits. Maybe the suits had started to trickle in. Post Sutcliffe, that's not Peter. Yeah, I just think that Beatles, you can't. When I was thinking about this list, I was like, oh, you're just a pretentious prick if you're not going to have the Beatles, the Stones, Elvis, Sinatra. I mean, of course you want those people. Like, you're an idiot if you don't have them. But I just thought, got to put the Beatles, like, to not want to see the Beatles. I don't get it. I couldn't have lived myself if they weren't there. But that said, I wouldn't want to see the Beatles headline it. I wouldn't want to see the Shea Stadium. I wouldn't want to see Sergeant Pepper era Beatles headline it. I just think what I've got coming would be more thrilling. But I think Beatles early doors, that still amphetamine fueled Rickenbacker racket leather bowls. I just like Paul and John. I just think would be unbelievable.
Sounds amazing. It's the 14th time the Beatles have been picked. It's the first time they've been picked as a super seconds act. So we're going big. We're going bold for your fantasy festival. We're not messing around. We've got the Velvet Underground and Nico. They're going to be followed by the Beatles, who are going to play from 3:30 till 4:30. We're going to take another half-hour break. That takes
I'm already excited,
mate. It's an incredible. It's a
picture in my head.
It's a statement. It's a hell of a statement you got with your opening 2, mate. I don't know where we're going. If you say we get up to Stadium from the Beatles, I don't know where else there is to go, but we will see where we get to, mate. So Midway Madness is going to play from 5 till 6. So who's going to be in your Midway Madness slot?
Okay, so these guys have got 1 foot in the main room, and you know what? And 1 foot in the Sex Dungeon, and they actually did at the time. So I don't think my next act might trump this, but you can certainly argue that hasn't been a better rock and roll band on this planet than Guns N' Roses a month or 2 before Appetite for Destruction hit the stores. Those shows that are on YouTube, the Roxy and the Ritz in LA, when they'd been touring around the world, I think, and they'd come back to LA, mate, they were strung out. Their first album hadn't even come out, and they were on the verge of breaking up. Every single one of them had a crippling heroin addiction. They were sleeping on hookers' floors. They were a mess. And then you see this footage of them, 89, it might have been 88, just before, I mean, Appetite's about to come out. The record company's going, they're going to pump loads of money into this, it's going to be massive. And mate, they looked insane. They were absolute sex machine, drug machine, rock and roll machines, but they were so tight and thrilling, hard, everything you want, pure rock and roll. And there was punk in there. It wasn't fat rock and roll. I despise Led Zeppelin because it's lumpy. It's like porridge rock and roll. I can listen to Led Zeppelin for 2-3 songs, same as Queen, and go, oh, they're brilliant. They're one of the best bands that's ever lived. And then 3 songs in, I'm like, oh my God, like a sock filled with cottage cheese. Do you know what I mean? Though, yeah. Lumpy, and like there's not an ounce of fat on it. There's not an ounce of fat on Guns N' Roses then, and they were really sleazy, nasty boys that were at it 100 mile an hour. And I think you'd be hard pushed to see a better rock and roll show, that punk, that aggressive, ever. I think you could argue the point that band at that time was the greatest rock and roll band of all time.
Yeah, fair point. Made an incredible album, and incredible few albums, to be fair. It's the 5th time they've been chosen on the Fantastival Podcast. They're playing, as we record this, they're playing Wembley Stadium tomorrow evening, so still going strong.
My mate's just been to see him, yeah.
What did he say? Did he enjoy it, not enjoy it? I've seen, obviously, quite a lot of footage from around, and obviously there's some benefits to being older, but a few less for Axl, I guess, in terms of what he's trying to do, in terms of a 3-hour show.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you got to forgive that. I mean, that boy's voice, you can't sing like that in your 60s, man. Yeah. It's the same with Liam, though. Like, they gave everything for the cause. Like, all right, let's drop a key or two. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not a problem, Axl. Like, chill out. It's cool if you don't hit the note. It's all good. And look at Duff, man. Like, Duff still looks incredible.
He does.
But yeah, they're just... they're the boys. They're the boys.
I saw Axl sing in AC/DC about 7 or 8 years ago, and he was singing for AC/DC. He was insanely
really
good. That's not an easy job to go and do that for like 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and he's absolutely nailed it. And I was quite apprehensive about it, but he was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, they're top lads, man. Like they were a real inspiration to Ulterior, and I maybe took it a little bit too far, but I don't think people were getting it because. Again, Suicide, one of the bands I'd love to have seen, because big honourable mention, because I don't know if your listeners will be aware of Suicide, but a lot of people don't really know them, but they were the punkest punk band, because they were opening, all the punk bands loved them, but they'd be opening for the Ramones and the Pistols, the Clash, and all these people, but they're an electronic duo, and they still sound like the future. They do actually sound like the future. You go and listen to their first album, second album, third, and there's nothing ever sounded like that. And bearing in mind, this was a drum machine and a keyboard at the back with a guy not moving with shades on, and Alan Vega up front is whipping chains and confident and singing like Elvis with puts on his face and like leather jacket. And these guys were getting axes thrown at them. Like 23 minutes over Brussels, you hear an axe hit the back of the stage. They'd get booed. And there's footage of Suicide. You go and watch it now, where they're opening for these big punk bands that are all got their nice, safe little guitars, and the most punk band of all time is stood in front of you, and no one understood it. And they were the nastiest band. They were so cool, man. So yeah, big honourable mention for Suicide. But we were more like that. Ulterior were more like that. And what I wanted people to really get was we were the electronic Guns N' Roses. Wow. So I actually started to wear a bandana. And it didn't help that I actually did look a bit like Axl Rose when I was a bit younger. So you'd get, he's just trying to be Axl Rose. It's like, but we're playing electronic.
Yeah.
Like, we're playing techno. Like, you're not getting this. And yeah, we weren't very good at... I remember Damon Albarn saying recently, like, he was the best band between Blur and Oasis. He was like Oasis by far, because they were the better brand. They were better at telling people who they were.
Yeah.
We were never very good at telling people who we were. We just forced it upon them. And if they didn't get it, they were fucking idiots. And that's how we saw it, which is entirely the wrong way around. But you live and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Suicide have come up a couple of times in the Fantastival. They've been picked twice, actually. Great, so I know a bit. Pete Wilkinson from Cast, funnily enough, the bass player, picked Suicide as his Super Seconds. And then Paul Hemmings, who was in one of the first versions of the Lars, picked them as well. So Suicide have come up a couple of times. So Great picks, great choices. Guns N' Roses, 5th time they're joining us. They are going to be amazing from 5 till 6. You're 3 down. You've got 2 left. You've done an amazing first 3, Paul. You've got 2 left. You've got your pre-headliners who are going to come on and play from 6:30 till 8 o'clock. So, Paul, who is going to be your pre-headliner?
Well, I'm going to bore you now because these get predictable. But they've got to, right? Like, you're not going to have Bell and Sebastian headliner after Guns N' Roses have come on, are you? As good as that would be, but like you can't bring this down to something cool. Like, bearing in mind, I was edging towards ABBA for number 5 because I mean, how good would that be? Because it is a festival, everyone would know the songs and all that. So I have kind of done an ABBA, but number 4 is really boring. But again, like the Beatles, couldn't not have them in. So I would go Gimme Shelter era Stones after Guns N' Roses. So what you'd get there, it's kind of a similar experience. But what I'm realising here that smack has never left the room. The drug of choice here is it's a nasty bunch of lads, isn't it?
It's dark. It's dark.
It's dark, yeah. So that really heavy, like the footage of the Stones from that period, they were on a knife's edge. They were in trouble, but writing the best music. And I just think they were really interesting, really thrilling. And being that big, so Guns weren't that big then. So Guns was still young Guns. It's still Guns about to explode. So they weren't quite there. And the Stones, I think, are the realization of where Guns were sort of going. But I think the Stones then were just, there were cracks everywhere. And crack, possibly. I don't know, probably not around then. But like, there were cracks everywhere. And but man, they looked beautiful. They just like, Jagger's just coming through every image. Like every time he's on screen, he's on you. He's coming through there. He's so magnetic. And wherever you pan on any band member, even Charlie with a little side parting, like it's the coolest stuff. And the fact that it's so sloppy, even though it's not sloppy, it's made to sound sloppy. Loose. And the reason for the sloppiness was that the drummer followed the guitarist rather than everybody following the drummer, which was everyone play off Keith's rhythm, which was great, which made them always on the back foot, even when they were being really urgent within the music. So seeing a band that big, because, you know, you've got enormous tours like U2, Zooropa and all that kind of stuff. And whilst there's the spectacle there, I think what you'd get with that era Stones is the spectacle, but also you don't lose the thrill of rock and roll of the knife edge. And I hope that's what great music is to me. I'm going to put the light on. But that's what great music is to me. Like, it should always contain that knife edge. It should always be right on that line, even when you don't have to lose that when you're enormous. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to lose that as a big band. Difficult as you get older because you get a life and you get a family, and being off your face to get that edge is not something you want to do.
So this is the 6th time the Stones have been chosen. They're going to play from 6:30 to 8. I think the timing is going to get out the window because I know GNR do not stick to times, and I know the Stones are never going to stick to times. So we'll see where we go. At some point, the Stones will come off and we will get your headliners on. Your headliner is going to get 2.5 hours to close your fantasy festival. So we've had Velvet Underground and Nico. We've had the Beatles. We've had GNR. We have the Rolling Stones. You said it's not Bowie. For me, Bowie is the obvious headliner, but you said it's not Bowie. So I'm not quite... I can't figure out where you're taking this.
I can't pick an era here, because I don't think Ziggy-era Bowie would follow the Stones particularly well. I think he'd have to go in that Guns slot, because the songs aren't there. An 80s Bowie with all the big songs and a back catalogue, I just feel doesn't fit the bill.
All right. So I can't work out who you're going to have as your headliner, Paul. I'm stumped.
Well, I think
I'm stumped a little bit.
The sunshine comes out now, but this is somebody who carries a lot of darkness.
Oh, okay.
It might be out there on the edge of town, but there's a lot of darkness that's in this guy's work. But he's the greatest headliner I've ever seen, arguably the greatest gig I've ever been to, and it's the Boss.
Great choice.
Boss.
Great choice.
I'm going to top it all off with the Boss. If you've ever been to see Springsteen, you get everything that those other bands have given you. You stand there, arms aloft, singing your head off to life-affirming lyrics, tears streaming down your face with the biggest smile. it's a religious experience seeing Springsteen. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before. And I've seen Bowie, which is incredible. I saw Bowie in front of 2,000 people at Rock City.
Wow.
As a warm-up. I've seen Nirvana, who, honourable mention again. I'm not having Nirvana in that. Oh, God. So I'll tell you someone else was going to stick in, just to digress slightly. I was going to put the Miles Davis quartet in with Coltrane. I thought that would have fit. If there was 6, that would have definitely gone in between Beatles and Guns.
Fair.
Because that is just, incredible. But yes, Springsteen is on a different level than anybody I've ever seen live. And gladly plays for 3 hours. And I would go for a later period Springsteen as well. My brother was trying to tell me to go for the River era, but then you miss out Born in the USA, don't you? And do you miss out Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska's after. It's one after the River.
Yeah, so I wouldn't do that. I'd go much later. When was Darkness on the Edge of Town?
That was 78. That was before the River.
Yeah, so maybe Born in the USA Springsteen. I'm not sure how much of Nebraska he was playing back then. But do you know what? Even his most recent stuff, like I saw him at Villa Park not long ago, but I saw him a couple of times in London it was either just post-COVID or pre-COVID. He played Darkness on the Edge of Town.
I was there. I was at that. That was at Wembley Stadium. That's
right.
I remember that. That was a good show. Yeah.
Yeah. But drawing on that catalogue, yeah. Springsteen came to me late because I just thought he was this muscly American. And you get this a lot in England. So Springsteen fans in England are kind of like a little weird pull. Because there's so many, like particularly indie lads. He was almost like the anti-indie bloke. Like when you're in the 90s, if you like Springsteen, you're just anti-music. It's just like big, oh, you out there. So I get that. But to not fall in love with Springsteen is to just... It's like people who are childless. It's like you can have a good life, by all means, of course. Like, I'm not judging. But when you have a child, your capacity for love explodes like a supernova. And you can't ever explain it to somebody. And Springsteen, when you get Springsteen, it's like you're cooking a curry on a Friday night and you're in the kitchen, it's on, and you're crying your eyes out. You know, he talks of family, like the connection there. He becomes like Bowie to me as a teenager. Springsteen's been what Bowie has meant to me as a teenager and growing up being weird and being odd and never fitting in anywhere. That Bowie making that cool and Bowie making that fine for millions of people around the world. And for me, Bowie always felt like me, and he did that to everybody. That's the brilliant thing about it. It's cool to be weird. It's cool to not think the same thing. It's cool to not fancy the same people. Don't worry, it's all good. Springsteen's done that to me for later life about family and blood and work and being a man. So Springsteen was my grown-up Bowie. And maybe it's the age I'm at now, at 50 years of age. Maybe one day I would have put Bowie in there. Right now, this is my festival, so I don't give a shit. Springsteen's headlining it.
Fair. Only the 7th time Springsteen's been picked on the Fantastival podcast, but every time.
To my point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mate, so Springsteen's going to give us a Springsteen set, right? And then he welcomes back on stage the Rolling Stones, Guns N' Roses, the Beatles, the Velvet Underground and Nico. This is like an insane stage you've got. They're all looking at you, Paul, going, mate, we've got one more song till we have to get off this stage. What should we play? And you can tell them to play any song that you like. It's all on you, Mr McGregor. What song are you going to have your collective stage of unbelievable talent play to close your fantasy festival?
By the way, have you ever heard Springsteen's version of Suicide's Dream Baby Dream?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, gosh. So Springsteen does slip into this Suicide Velvet's little world here. So I'm going to get them all. Because the Velvets were first, I'm going to get Lou Reed right up front. I'm going to have all those great singers behind him. And I'm going to get them to do a 25-minute version of Sister Ray.
Nice. That's incredible.
Sucking on a ding-dong.
That's
just like Sister Ray said.
That's amazing. So we are going to... Right, we haven't given your fantasy festival a name. Has anything struck you while we've been talking about it? I've kind of got like a dark and heavy situation going on, but then Springsteen's going to be completely clean. He always has been, so it feels unjust to call it like a druggy or dark reference.
No,
but
I'm going to call it the Berghain Boogaloo.
Like it. All right, we've got the Berghain Boogaloo. It's taking place in the Sex Dungeons and the main room in Bernheim. We have got Velvet Underground and Nico as your opening act. We've got the Beatles, Super Seconds, Guns N' Roses, Midway Madness, the Rolling Stones pre-headlining, Springsteen as your headliner, and they're all going to play Sister Ray for their encore. Mr McGregor, that sounds amazing to me. Are you happy to lock that one into the Fantastival vaults?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
That's amazing. All right, before I let you go, we were talking before we started recording about what you're up to kind of outside of the music, right? Because you've got a foundation, you're doing football coaching. So let's hear about kind of what is in store for you and kind of what your future plans are. Because it sounded really exciting when we were talking before we started this.
I have a foundation, so it's kind of the cliche of it is giving back to, I now live where I grew up, so giving back to the community. I do one-to-one football coaching. So the foundation essentially gets grants and donations, and where I live in Long Eaton, the deprivation level has dropped again for certain areas. So there's lots of kids with no access to sport, no access to decent food and all that kind of stuff. So the foundation partnered with a local football club called Riverside FC, and we use their coaches, and we deliver multi-sport, so kids get access to sport. And they get access to healthy meals and education around eating healthily and playing sport and trying different sports and being active, really. So we do that. And I do one-to-one coaching with football. So I kind of take kids that ages 8 to 18, really, who are aspiring to do something. Most of them are in and around academies, but a lot of them aren't and just want to get better. And want to improve. So I do one-to-one coaching, and I'm currently in the process of building my own two 3G pitches in order to continue my coaching. And we'll also be running some send provision from there because there's a nice clubhouse next to the pitches, and continuing the work with providing football and sport for underprivileged kids and servicing the community with it, really.
That's amazing, Paul. If anyone wants to find you on social media or wants to get in contact, how will people find you? What are the best ways to get in contact with yourself or to follow you?
I don't know the handles because I'm 50, right? So just look up the Britpop footballer or my name, you'll find me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm not on TikTok and all that nonsense. My website's www.paulmcgregorfoundation.com, and that's literally just the foundation of my coaching. But yeah, if you want to listen to me talk nonsense on Twitter, that's fine. And there's some photographs of my gorgeous hair on Instagram. That's all you'll need to know.
What about the band? If anyone wants to listen to Ulterior, can they be found on any streaming platforms or are they physical?
Oh yeah, find Ulterior everywhere, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. I wrote a little album. It was funny, actually. I got a band together post Ulterior called Violence, spelled like silence. And I actually wrote the album the day after we got back after touring with the Sisters of Mercy across Europe for 2 weeks. And I lying on my bathroom floor rattling on, like, coming down from the high of doing that. And I wrote a whole album. My wife was away. She was selling in London. She was working Paul Smith at the time. And I wrote a whole album for her. And it's the opposite of Ulterior. So I went and we wrote this album. A friend of mine is a pianist, a really beautiful pianist. And a friend of mine plays double bass, and another friend just did these little noise machines. And we kind of preempted the sort of Nick Cave trilogy of Skeleton Tree and Ghost Tea and that kind of quiet, loud. We sounded like that a long time before it. So that album took 10 years to come out. So there's an album called Amor by Violence that you'll enjoy that. Dedicated to my wife and Kim, who's upstairs. And then if you want a load of fun with, just this soccer thin white Duke, big indie pop songs, just having a laugh, post-punk, you'll hear everyone in the band's called The Upper Body on Spotify. We just release double A-sides all the time. We don't not bothered about releasing an album. When something's recorded, we like it, we send it out. So you'll hear everything from XTC to Bowie to the Beatles, the Stones, the Fall, all these great bands, and Oasis, all these great bands, and you'll just hear all your favourite bands in the upper body, and it's just me in football boots and a jockstrap stinking of DP, having fun. Brilliant. In character. As me in the 90s.
Amazing.
If you want to get all meta about it.
What a way to end it. That is it. Thanks to everyone for listening to the 180th episode of the Fantastival Podcast. If you've enjoyed this one, please subscribe. You can give the Fantastival Podcast a review on iTunes. You can give us a follow on Spotify. You can rate the show on Spotify. You can also comment on the episode that you've listened to. We are also on Twitter as well as Paul, so if you don't follow us, make sure to do so at Fantastival P. We are also on TikTok as well. All the bands that Paul was in that he's mentioned, we'll get some nice little links to everything that he's mentioned. Put those all in the episode description, so scroll up. You'll find all the links to whatever you need within there. Paul, you've been my 180th guest. It's been a pleasure having you on. I know you struggled with the Fantasy Festival, but now it's out there. It's amazing. It's sold out instantly. How have you found the Fantastival Podcast, my friend?
Oh, it's been wonderful, Steve. Thank you so much for having me. It's really nice to really focus in on the music. I actually know more about music than I do about football. I really do. So it's been a joy to talk music, although it's genuinely been torture. I was up till about 2:00 last night, and me and the band were arguing, and I could read you out the list of bands, and we were like, what do you mean? How have we forgotten this? How have we forgotten this? So yeah, it's been torturous. It's been loads of fun. Yeah, it's been a real privilege. I've really enjoyed myself, mate. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I look forward to the third album when that's released. Sounds really interesting, mate. I look forward to seeing what comes out of that. So I'll be back next week with episode number 181. So please make sure to join me for that one. But until then, stay safe, my Fantastival friends. Please continue to spread the word. And that word is Fantastival. Thanks for listening.